what are the underlying economics of the portfolio of insecurity that Nigeria currently battles, and what needs to change if the fight against insecurity? First, what type of insecurity relating to lives and property is Nigeria dealing with? Look at what is on your TV screen. If you piggyback a few years ago, we have the onset of the Boko Haram, which was basically a religious extremism and fighting against the state. Started all in Nigeria's northeast, to be precise. Then you have, in more recent times, a banditry, those who are simply looking for enterprise for monetary gains. Then you find kidnappers as well, who are largely criminals of financial fortune. Like Evans, they just want to kidnap people and look for soft targets, and all they make are just demands for money. Then you find insurgents, and these are rebellion due to disaffection with the state of Nigeria. Then you find communal clashes. These are once in a while territorial disputes and other issues that happen. Of course, some of this happened in far distant history of Nigeria. Then you have those who engage in political thuggery, and this usually happens in and around general elections. Then you find armed robbery. Of course, this is historic enterprise of criminals who wants to make ends meet. But how did Nigeria get to this point with this cocktail of insecurity and criminal elements of different hues and cries? Let's chat to this now with Paul Alaje, a senior economist at SPM Professionals. Good evening, Paul. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, and thank you so very much for having me.
I'm sure you saw what we just put on the screen.
Yes.
Thank you. That's our portfolio of insecurity right now. If we take the top ones and just at least omit the pickpockets on the street and those who are doing simple break and entry. So let's deal with this very high-profile insecurity group of Nigerians, those who have taken to crime. Do you think Nigeria's insecurity situation has reached an overwhelming point right now with the cocktail that you can see in front of you?
Well, the frequency right now, the frequency of attack, not just of the citizen, but those that are supposed to protect the citizen. Talking about the security agencies. Virtually all sectors have been affected in Nigeria. Political sector, which we think that are exempted because of political power. But a couple of days ago, we hear what happened to one of the state governors. And this is not just the first time. We have seen situations where attackers in a state in North Central, Benue State particularly, have been reportedly attacked by some of the people that have been classified in your earlier report. So education is affected. A couple of days ago again, we saw university student, private university in Kaduna State. Before that time, we have seen colleges of education. We have seen people in primary level of education. Across board, education have been affected, not just now from Chibok, that was quite large, to Dapchi, and now to even almost everywhere. There are a lot of concerns. Hotels are now being attacked, workers of hotels. We have seen how workers in hospitals have been affected, talking about doctors in Edo State and Cross River State. And there was a time when even lawyers, Association of Lawyers, went on strike because of kidnapping in Edo State. And we have quite a number of challenges here and there that is now becoming, in fact, more frequent. And you can bet that when you read headline tomorrow morning, what will be reported the most will be issues that concerns insecurity. And this is ubiquitous across all geopolitical zone, from North Central to Northeast to Northwest to South, Southeast, and in fact, Southwest. Everybody seems to be affected.
My question is simple. Are we right now being overwhelmed by the state of what you call insecurity?
Well, I think to a large extent, I think the state is getting overwhelmed, and we are stretching the security forces. Who I think with the limited number we have with huge population, they have to do more. Not just the police, even the military have been attacked. We have seen reports of about 12 military persons, bodies found. So there seems to be the overwhelming nature of this insecurity that has no single direction. It is not just religious extremism that is fueling recent insecurity. Different regions seems to have unique reason for fighting. If it is not separatist, you are dealing with people that wants to gain political control and scheming and fighting for what should be in the next political dispensation. You have that on one side. You still have religious extremism, and you have people who have built economic enterprise. Who do we have? We still have to rely on the defense headquarters. We have to rely on Nigerian police force. We have to rely on civil defense. The rate at which insecurity is growing, it seems to be a geometrical progression. But the response to some of these security matters is coming at a geometrical progression.
That's my point. Is you've talked about your overall assessment of the country's insecurity in relation to lives and property in recent times. What about government efforts at stemming the tide at both federal and state level?
Well, government has also made a number of moves. From the reports we have. We've seen that service chief has been changed. If that is sufficient is what we'll debate maybe in the subsequent conversation. But service chief have been changed, which is one of the efforts Mr. President have said we're expecting a difference in coming period. But that said, we have also seen government try a number of intervention, said some repentant terrorists should be reintegrated to the society, perhaps to show to others that we are not going to kill you if you can surrender weapon. We have seen Amotekun at the southwest region. We are seeing Ebubeagu coming up quickly in southeast. We have seen Benue that started some form of protection for the region. The question is this: with the efforts put in place as a result of regional effort or state effort, these efforts, have they been sufficient to protect Nigeria? And if you ask average Nigerian today, and you may want to do a survey on Twitter to ask, do you feel more secure today than you were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Paul, and see if there will be new, if there are concerns that we truly need to worry about.
Yeah, Paul, the main reason why we put out that portfolio of insecurity is to break it all down. But there's a whole lot more to chat to when we return after the break. We'll bring it back up again for you to look at. Again, how did we get here? The whole question is, what is the economics of this insecurity? Breaking it down, beyond the headlines, beyond the crime, where is the underbelly of the insecurity that is choking Nigeria across the four corners? That's what we'll talk about. Paul Alaje, stand by everyone. We'll be right back into it. Welcome back to the show. Nigeria's spending on internal security is presently at its highest level, at least since the beginning of the current civilian democracy in 1999. But this is simply about how much billions of naira that are poured into the security machinery of arms, munitions, training, welfare of the officers and men, and so on. What about the economics of the specter of insecurity? My guest still here in our Lagos studios, Paul Alaje of SPM Professionals. And this is the dynamics that Nigeria is dealing with the Boko Haram, which is basically a religious extremism. They don't take hostages for money, or they don't demand ransom, by the way. Then you have the bandits who are specialized in enterprise for monetary gains. Then kidnappers who just grab and run. Then, of course, you have insurgents, those that are described as those who are rebellious against or disaffected with the state, when you talk about the sovereign itself. Then, of course, you have the communal clashes, which usually happens because of territorial disputes, farmlands, issues of that nature. Then you have political thuggery that sometimes rears its head around the elections, whether general elections or state governors or governorship elections. Then you have armed robbery, which are basically those who are looking to make ends meet, and some of them wants to live a larger-than lifestyle. Paul Alaje, let's continue this conversation. We've seen Nigeria's battle against insecurity. So, is it a sole function of how much we spend on arms, munitions, and the men? And why?
No, it can't be just what we have spent on harm. There are two things we should consider. First, how did we get here? Why do we have people kidnapping? For instance, in that Greenfield school, over 800 million or so have been demanded by kidnappers as ransom. But when you look deeply, you look at the economic factor that has brought us to this level. Have we created economic opportunities for people in terms of jobs, in terms of an economy that does not have too much inflation? But what you have, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, is 33.3%. unemployment figure and people that cannot get up to 20 hours or so a week in terms of job. And you also have underemployment, people who could get job but is not sufficient, of course, to meet what they require for their homes. So when you look at what we have in terms of unemployment and underemployment, and given the fact that we live in an economy whose inflation is about 18.17%, all of these according to the National Bureau of Statistics, and you also see our import-export pattern due to trade reports by the same organization, then you will be worried. You'll be worried because when one person is out of job, the impact of one person out of job is not just in. One person will cater for average of 4 to 6 persons. So if the breadwinner in a home loses his job, what is the implication? The implication is that a lot more people that are depending on him, they become idle. And in Devil's Workshop, what do you have there? It is not hoes and cutlass. You see machetes, you see gun. So when we want to use gunboat strategy, or we want to use military strategy, which can answer for some of the insecurity we have, is definitely not sufficient. So we cannot have high level of misery index at about 70%, which means 7 out of 10 persons have a high level of miserability. And that's the economic discomfort that they suffer from, and we expect insecurity not to be ubiquitous. So with setup of several regional security outfits and even state support, have we been able to significantly reduce the level of insecurity? No. Desperation on the part of attacker has increased day by day. So for me, I think we need to do more.
We'll get to that point of what more do we need to do. But when we go to insecurity or our security system, network, as it were, what needs to change? We've changed the service chiefs. What else needs to change at that level?
Yeah, we need to change our approach. We need to change our approach to solving this. I think the entire security architecture.
Is it approach architecture?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking of security architecture. When I talk about architecture, I am referring to what is the method. You know, when we talk about insecurity, what comes to an average mind is, we have some soldiers, we have military, we have the police, etc., etc. For me, what is actually the plan to bring this economy to the path of prosperity, to take out those who are suffering from economic quagmire, who are ready-made for insurgents, and also ready-made for those who are suffering from economic backwardness. You see, we have over 12 million, 10 to 12 million out of school children. These are ready-made and in the hands of insurgents and insecurity. We have millions more that are unemployed. So if we don't fix our social economic development, if that is not sorted, I'm afraid, rather than seeing end in sight, we'll continue to experience, in fact, more criminality. Because when you look at all the countries that are high in terms of terrorism and also in terms of criminality, talk about Afghanistan, talk about Somalia, what is similar to what they have in Nigeria is high unemployment, high inflation, high poverty. So because we have all of these things on the rise, and somebody is promising that if we can convince you otherwise, that you can believe and take life and you earn a living, or if you don't earn a living on earth, when you die you go to heaven, which is paradise, and you are going to live better, people will easily jump in the boat because we have not given them opportunity to live here. And the question I ask is, there are countries that are even more religious supposedly than Nigeria, but because you have economic reason for them to live for, they don't join such insurgents. And you also have economies where people don't kidnap, despite you have more billionaires, more millionaires in dollars in those countries, because average citizens have a portion of economic life. What we see here is economic arrangements that have excluded a lot of people from economic prosperity.
So this is my point, that at least the current administration, well, a few others in the past, have also tried to do what you call palliatives. In other words, try to provide what you call palliatives in terms of whether it is cash or whether it is a motorcycle or a blending machine to women and young people who are able. Do you think these have gone deep and strong enough as to disincentivize the mindset to go into criminal enterprise?
Okay, so when you give palliative of 5,000 naira a month, or to be charitable 10,000 naira a month, if you had given somebody this time last year that money, just know that you are not giving as much this year because of inflation. So, and when you give people 5,000 trader money, or whatever name we call the money we are giving people, can they live sustainably with such money in this economy? The answer is no.
But Paul, we've also seen across state government that some state governments give motorcycles and others to those within their domain. They give sewing machines and all that. Are these not enough?
Well, the report is on the streets. The report is published in the newspaper every morning. We need a national development approach where states and state government, federal government, and local government, and for me, I think the approach should start from local government, where they can engage people at the local level. So you don't always have to look up to federal government for things. But when we continue to play the hide and seek, that the current economic arrangement is working, that is failing us, not just today, but over the years, it's been failing us. It's just that the rate at which it's failing us is higher now. That is why it's becoming a conversation and it's becoming an issue. It's making even the elites to feel unsecured. So the earlier we get that, we need to restructure our economic arrangement as a matter of urgency. The more, if we don't do that, as I speak with you, it may continue to hurt us. But for how far it will hurt us, well, we will wait and see if we don't do the right thing. And I hope that Nigeria will not disappear suddenly.
We appreciate your insights on the show tonight. Paul Alaje, Senior Economist at SPM Professionals. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.